From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ. Janelle, Sue, and myself have made the trip further down the southern tier as we move from Lucky Lanes in Fredonia to here at the Jamestown Bowling Company. Our returning champ, Steve Dorobiala, has made the trip with us. But, Sue, it's an interesting lineup of bowlers here. Interesting because of our 10 bowlers, 7 of them are making their Beat the Champ debuts.
I know, so we can't really predict what's going to happen. Some of them are local, some of them are from Buffalo, but still trying out for the very first time.
7 of those 10 bowlers are either Jamestown or southern tier residents or regular bowlers, so they may have a little home lane advantage, but again, they haven't been on the show before.
Right, and that's the great thing about traveling this far away from like the Buffalo area is we do get to see some new faces and give other people the opportunity to show their skills on TV.
Yeah, and Janelle, we have a Beat the Champ first this month because on our 3rd show, we have our first ever father and son qualifiers.
Wow, that would be pretty crazy if they were able to go head-to-head and bowl against each other. So I guess you'll have to stick around and see what happens.
That is a possibility that will come a couple of weeks from now, but it's going to be a great lineup of new names that we haven't seen before, which probably means some surprising results. So let's get rolling.
Hi, I'm here on Beat the Champ with our returning champion, Steve Dorobiala. All the way here in Jamestown, going to be a little bit different of a condition for you. But more than that, we're not seeing our normal cast of characters. These are bowlers that we really have never seen on Beat the Champ before. Do you have any different approach to this, or how are you thinking about it?
Well, I know my first opponent a little bit. I bowled in some tournaments with him, sports shot tournaments. And he recently qualified in Syracuse for the match play in the Masters. So he's pretty decent, very good bowler, and I'll have my hands full for sure.
Yeah, well, it's one at a time. And did you get a chance to practice on this condition at all?
A little bit. They seem kind of dry, but see how the TV pairing is. But go from there.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck and bowl well today.
Thank you.
All right. I'm here on Beat the Champ with our first challenger today, Tom Sorce. Although we haven't seen you on the show, you're a well-known name in Buffalo, and also a product of that Bowl U. So let's talk about Bowl U a little bit and what it's about.
Well, I mean, basically it's easy to call it coaching, but it's another way to see the game, to recognize what makes our sport different from every other sport, and to look at it from a different perspective to see what's going on out there. And, I mean, you've been able to see with the guys that have made this show that have come out of that group. So, I mean, they've had a lot of success around Buffalo and really trying to take it around the country, around the world, too.
Exactly. That's why I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about it, because it's the knowledge that comes from that. We kind of simplify it down here on the show, but this sport is way more complicated than it looks, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only sport in the world where you have to play on an invisible course, and that invisible course is changing every time a ball rolls down the lane. So there's always something happening every moment. No individual shot, doesn't have any effect. Everything matters. And being able to see what's happening out there and being able to recognize what's happening out there faster than your opponent is more important than anything.
Right. Another big complication in this sport is the technology of bowling balls. Technology has come so far, and this helps you pick bowling balls as well, doesn't it?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, back in the day, everyone basically had about the same bowling ball, and it wasn't very difficult to make a choice. And now one of the most important things to be good at is knowing the proper matchup with your equipment to the pattern. So that's very helpful in that, too. And
if anybody wanted to get more information on this, how would they do that?
You can contact Brad Angelo, BradAngeloLanes.com. Find him on Facebook or me. Anywhere we'll always be answering messages, talking to people. We're trying to set things up all over the place, so anytime.
Okay, well, we hope to see you bowl all day, but if not, maybe we'll have you come on the show later and talk a little bit more about that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, good luck today.
Thank you.
So here we go. Our first match here at the Jamestown Bowling Company features Dorobiala, our returning champion, making his debut here on Beat the Champ, but certainly not his debut at the highest levels of Western New York bowling, is Tom Sorce from Blasdell, New York, 31 years old, and really accomplished bowler, Sue, as we'll talk about throughout this match. But first time we have had the chance to see Tom here on the show, and we are ready to get going at the Jamestown Bowling Company. It is a month-long stay here for Beat the Champ, and here we go. Frame number 1 on lane 17. We are off and rolling. And that's a good start for Tom Sorce, a strike in the first frame.
Well, we know Tom's no stranger to competitive bowling at this level. Camera doesn't intimidate him at all. And when you talk about coming to something prepared, that just is exactly what Tom Sorce is prepared.
Yeah, and we want to welcome in our buddy Jim Mee, the owner here of the Jamestown Bowling Company and a frequent guest here on Beat the Champ. And good to see you as always, Jim. Always good to make this trip down here to Jamestown to hang out with the good bowlers of the Southern Tier here for another couple of weeks.
Well, thanks a lot, and it's great to have you guys back again.
So Steve Dorobiala, our returning champion from Fredonia, where he qualified with a win over Josh Nowak in our final match at Fredonia, gets started with a strike here in frame number 1. So give us a little overview, Jim, on the qualifying, on how it went. And we already talked about the fact that we've got a lot of new names. They're probably not new names to you, because we do have a lot of Jamestown guys, but some new names to the viewers here on Beat the Champ.
Yes, this was our 3rd time that we've had the show here, and this was by far my best turnout. We had 95 entries. I've only been getting 50, 60 for various reasons, weather mostly. So, and we are the farthest bowling center away from Buffalo, where obviously the majority of the bowlers are. So yeah, I was very happy. I had a better local turnout, and quite a few guys from out of town showed up also.
Yeah, I was looking back through some of our 2 other previous stops here in Jamestown to see some of the names that we had, and I think fans of the show will remember Matt White, who's an Erie guy, if I'm not mistaken, went on that nice long winning streak. That was 2 years ago. And then Terry Parson, who's another one of your Jamestown guys, went on a nice little winning streak 2 years ago. But we don't have any of those guys on this show, so that's what's nice about it, is we're getting a chance to see some new names.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Welcome our new Beat the Champ sponsor, Owl Homes of Fredonia, Western New York's leading builder of modular and manufactured homes. Call 673-1366 and online at owlhomeswny.com.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
But yeah, I know that ice storm you guys got, like my last day of qualifying, that might have cost us maybe 10, 15 entries, but what are you going to do? It still worked out.
Yep.
We need to get down here like in July, because we know the weather will be good. Not only will the weather be good, but we can hang out a little at Chautauqua Lake when we're done. So you got to work on that for us, Jim. A July date down here.
Well, the only problem with July is a lot of people really don't bowl in the summer, so
right.
you got to keep that one closer to the city where there's more bowlers.
And Steve with an interesting spare pickup that he can't get either. So another open for Steve comes in the 8th frame. We want to remind everybody that, and Jim mentioned it, top qualifier in the round of 24 wins a television valued at $500 from our friends at Dirt Cheap TV. Terry Parson was the winner here in Jamestown of the television, but Terry was unable to qualify for the show. So, of course, that opportunity presents itself at every stop here in qualifying of Beat the Champ. So now another door opener here for Tom Sorce.
Great job.
And he follows up his opener with a strike in the 8th.
So are we looking for these to break down a little bit wet dry? Is that what do you predict that?
Yeah, slightly. This isn't as wet dry of a house shot as a lot of places. It's a little more blended.
Okay.
So it holds up pretty good, and it doesn't get too crazy.
Because for Steve, he left the 7-9 there on lane 17. That is a result of the ball obviously hitting a little bit flat, and it looks like a pocket hit, and because the ball is kind of running out of energy or it stayed in the oil a little bit too long, you'll see that split result. Well,
wow, did he skirt the edge of that lane on that one or what? And obviously it showed in that he was a little too far right.
I'm going to say that's a result of fast feet when the ball leaks to the right like that.
Yeah, it's definitely, and you won't see Tom throw a lot of shots like that because his timing is usually very good.
I mean, that's how critical timing is in this game of bowling. His feet got fast, and that's when you see the ball go to the right like that early, it's generally because your feet have gotten too fast and you get to the line too quick.
So at least a decent spare opportunity here for Tom in the 9th frame. And he'll get it. So that's good spare pickup for Tom, and he continues to be in control of this. And even a big comeback from Steve here following that open frame in the 8th. So to put a little pressure on Tom, see if he can do it or not.
Okay, so you know, Steve is definitely in a position here where he has to strike out, and we know he can. We know he's hit the pocket every shot, but he's gonna need to force Tom to spare if he can strike out.
And there's at least the start. It is strike in the 9th frame. Steve stays busy, even though he is a business owner that we talked about, bowls 4 nights a week in leagues around Western New York, and stays on top of his game. And as we mentioned, this is the 4th time we've seen him here on Beat the Champ. 11 career 300 games for Steve, and 1 800 series in his bowling career. And he's going to need a whole bunch more strikes here to be able to move on to match number 2, as Joe Doxbeck awaits for the winner of this match. And if not, there is mulching to do around Western New York, right?
I know one place that needs it.
Including at your house, yes.
Great shot, great shot.
And he's not ready to get the hands dirty yet. Hanging in there, keeping the pressure up as you take a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. We also want to thank one of our sponsors, Owl Homes of Fredonia, a new sponsor here on Beat the Champ. We appreciate their support as we've made our 2-month stay down here in the Southern Tier after a month at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, another month here at the Jamestown Bowling Company.
Big shot here for him, yeah.
Not going out without a fight, is he?
So count matters here. This is a situation where he needs all 10. He wants to get as many pins as he can to force Tom to get as many pins as he can. A strike's going to pretty much seal it for Tom, no matter what. But anything less than that, and the door is open.
But it all depends on whether Steve can finish strong on this throw.
It's going to come down to count no matter what, but he wants to fill this with as many pins as he can to force Tom to get as many pins more pins as possible.
And he just can't get that 7 pin. So Steve Dorobiala's final score will be posted, and the opportunity for Tom Sorce to get his first Beat the Champ win will come here in the 10th frame. The 232 score up on the board for Steve Dorobiala.
Right, and that's really truly a great finish. He did everything that he could. So now it's just going to come down to count here.
You know, you look at the sheet for Steve. Strikes everywhere except opens in the 5th and 8th. He missed a 1-pin spare in the 5th. Got a split in the 8th, but other than that, perfect. And look what happens. What was that?
He got into the dry a little early, and we're talking about that being a little bit sensitive, and balls will definitely exaggerate that. So his choice of bowling ball has kind of bounced off the dry and it not really done that much in the oil. So that ball's created a bit of sensitivity to the lane condition. But
yeah, definitely, and I think he threw it a little slow also.
So 6 pins staring down Tom Sorce. He only gets 5 of them. So now, that means Steve Dorobiala has come from behind to win this.
That's how important those strikes were, yeah.
232 to 218. Boy, didn't necessarily see that coming. We'll talk to Tom, find out what happened. When we return, we're off and running here at the Jamestown Bowling Company on Beat the Champ. Well, pretty dramatic end to the 232 to 218 win for Steve Dorobiala. Tom, what happened to you on that 1 in the 10th that almost could have clinched the win?
Honestly, I don't really feel like I threw it that bad. It's a lane that I hadn't missed on the whole game.
off my hand, I thought it was okay. You know, it got 20 feet away from me, and I said, uh-oh. And I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, Steve's a good bowler. He gave me plenty of chances. I had a couple bad shots in there, and you know, I shouldn't even really come down to that if I'd have done my job earlier. So, you know, you just chalk it up to one more day and then try to get him next time.
You've bowled at the highest levels of this sport, but it's the first time we've had you on this show. What was the experience like?
I mean, it's different. You know, I don't really feel a lot of nerves from a being nervous type of standpoint, but you know, having the cameras around is a different story. I haven't done that yet, so you know, there's a little bit of getting used to that. But I mean, when it comes down to it, it's the same thing I've been doing for my whole life. So just try to do what you've been doing forever, basically.
All right. Well, if you're going to stick around in this hemisphere, we want to see you back on the show.
Hopefully,
a little more.
I'll be here next month.
All right,
sure.
Jim, make them feel a little better.
You got a little cash for you there.
Thank you very much.
Good bowling and good luck in Ohio this weekend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Tom's going to go off and try to bowl in a regional PBA event, see if he can't make himself feel a little better on that. We got much more coming up. We're back with more Beat the Champ right after this.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Joe Doxbeck, a new face to Beat the Champ, but a new face to bowling on TV, right?
Correct.
And you are a Buffalo bowler, traveled to Jamestown. How come we haven't seen you before?
I've tried. I've made a top 24 like twice, but I haven't made the show.
Do you think that bowling this number of times has helped you to get an idea of what's going on and feel more comfortable in order to make the show?
Oh, I believe so. It definitely helps.
All right, any nerves?
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, good luck today.
Thank you.
So after the dramatic win for Steve Dorobiala, he advances on. The next opponent is that gentleman, Joe Doxbeck from Buffalo, New York, retired Buffalo police officer, making his Beat the Champ debut down here in Jamestown. So we'll see what we get out of Joe and we'll see what kind of challenge he presents for Steve Dorobiala as Steve looks for a third consecutive win after the victory in Fredonia 2 weeks ago, and then the victory just now over Tom. And Tom Sorce is going to join us here to talk a little bit about the first match and about his career in just a moment, but here we go. And a good first frame strike for Joe Doxbeck.
And he's playing him the same way, very similar to the way you played him, so looks like the shot is it a little wet dry? What did you see?
I mean, they're pretty tight compared to you know, on the other side of the house and in qualifying. I tried to play them pretty straight, so I certainly didn't do any damage out there, so they should just be getting easier on the right side. I mean, we'll see how that goes, though. I didn't make it look so great myself.
Well, we're glad Tom could stick around here for a couple of minutes, and we want to talk to him a little bit about some of the amazing things he has done in his career. We'll get onto that in just a moment, but Steve Dorobiala, after that strong 3 consecutive strike finish in the first match, is off and rolling again here. What'd you see from Steve in that first match, Tom?
I mean, Steve, you know, exactly what I expected. Steve's a great bowler, you know, and it's interesting having the one righty and the one lefty because, you know, there's not a whole lot of transition out there, just kind of dealing with your own shots. And same thing, he plays it pretty straight too. So, you know, the left lane, the rack is a little bit closed on the left side. So we saw him leave the 7-9 there, and the shot that was pretty good. So that could affect him later. We'll see how it looks on that lane for sure.
Oh,
That was
there
like
it is,
that.
right
there it is
yeah,
again. That was,
wobble on the 7 pin.
that was
Yeah.
a perfect example of
pretty
what he's
bad about
talking about. But you're right. I mean, it's another. I think we had touched on that a little bit last
The
week.
racks,
Was the
yeah,
racks,
we talked about that last month.
Last month.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people that even take the time to look before they get up there. And I know people probably get annoyed with myself and some other guys that take constant re-racks, but it's important.
So that sometimes will prompt you to adjust your shot if you see something really obvious about the way it's racked?
If there's a really closed rack where like the 1 and the 3 pin are pretty close, and if you re-rack it and it stays that way, you've got to try to get really, really high up on the head.
Right.
Or if it's more open, you can sort of let your misses let you get a little bit light too, and kind of just play with what you see over there.
Absolutely.
We talked about this.
Absolutely
Yeah,
a
that's
factor.
exactly what we talked about. So.
And I mean, I even encountered that in league the other night when the rack just kept setting up wide open, and you have to hit real high flush for that.
And a little miss of the pocket there for Joe Doxbeck leaves himself a challenging split. Cumulative average for Joe about 208. Bowls pretty regularly 3 nights a week all over Western New York, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You see the vital stats on Joe, 6 career 300 games, a couple of 800 series, and there's an early look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
And you know, Joe's a perfect example of some league bowlers who are successful, you know, average 200 in their leagues, coming out and competing on Beat the Champ. And it just doesn't have to be Open Hour Masters top 5 finalists and, you know, winners of 10, 15 titles. I mean, you go out and do your job and work hard in league and see success, you should come out and try and make the show, because he's the perfect example right here.
Yeah, and as we talked about, that's the case for the next couple of weeks here at Jamestown, as we have a lot of first-time Beat the Champ bowlers, but a lot of bowlers that, while they're very good in their particular area, may not be some of the quote-unquote household names that at least our Buffalo-related fans have gotten used to.
Right, and you are seeing a house shot as you come out here, so it's probably going to be similar to what you see in league. And I think in my interviews earlier, back to this shot right here, I think it was Steve who mentioned that he thought the lanes were hooking quite a bit. So this pair appears to be tighter than the practice pair. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, unlike the typical house pattern, if you get it right toward the gutter, there's not a lot of friction out there right now. I mean, as you saw with my 2A10, I missed the head pin on the shot that I got right too, which isn't something you normally see in a lot of house patterns. If you get it right early, it's going to hook more.
Right.
So they look a little tricky out there if you get it right, for sure.
So that's back-to-back open frames for Joe Doxbeck, 8 pins and 9 pins, and certainly an opportunity for some early control of this match for Steve Dorobiala. Well, Tom, we talked about it when you were bowling in the last match, about the amazing experiences that you've had in this sport, the opportunities to go to the Middle East and bowl and coach over there. How did that all come about? And tell us a little bit about the experience for you.
Well, I mean, bowling's been the only thing I've ever wanted to do my whole life. You know, I've been fortunate enough to go to one of the better bowling colleges, Wichita State University, and that opened some doors. And I spent a lot of time, bowling the PBA tour when I was younger, kind of getting my face kicked in a little bit by the real animals out there. And I mean, it's a shame that there isn't a lot of money in the sport where a lot of people can make a good living. But it's hard for me to complain because, like you said, I've been able to see parts of the world that most people haven't. So for being 31, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. It's not really about the money in the bank account, you know?
Right.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
Well, you saw Joe Doxbeck kind of shook off the 2 opens, still struggling a little bit to find the pocket, but he was able to get spares in frames 4 and 5.
Well, he's definitely made the move to move a little bit more right, move his eyes a little bit left so that he's not missing to the right. Like Tom said, that it's not there to open up the lane, so you're going to have to be very direct to the pocket.
Tom, I think on the surface, people hear that you spent a lot of time in some of these places that those of us might have a predetermined attitude towards. Did you ever feel afraid to be in places like that, or is that just a misnomer of what maybe us here in the States expect out of some of those countries?
I mean, there's safe places and not safe places everywhere, whether it's the United States or any country. And I never felt unsafe when I was gone, but also I was with people that were there taking care of us. And it's been important to me to try to see parts of the world and other cultures and just understand that people are people no matter where you are, as it is. We've all got problems, and they just got different ones than us, basically.
That's great. See, the sport of bowling brings people together,
Yep.
doesn't it? And that's outstanding.
That's true. We're so much a result of what we see on television that, he's absolutely right. People are people. Nobody has anything against anybody. It's just what we see on television, what the television tells us.
I mean, when you're out there in the lanes, it's just the guy that bowls the best game wins, and that's that. And nothing else matters out there. It's just being able to perform.
Are the bowling centers? Do they look like our bowling centers, or are they bigger? Are they fancier? What are the bowling centers like?
We happen to be in a lot of the really big ones because they were big World Bowling Tour events. So I didn't really get to see. I would imagine there's not anywhere near as many smaller, localized type of things. I think that they're much bigger, broader sort of centers out there for a lot of people to come in.
Were they stadium settings, or were they?
A couple of them were. The first place we bowled in Qatar, they had like stadium seating in the back, and they had separate seats for like the emirs and the very important higher ups, princes to come down and watch. And they had like kind of a glassed off section of that. So it was just cool.
There was a VIP section?
Yeah.
Wow. like Wimbledon.
Yeah, we have a VIP section here. It's those 2 seats right in front of us. So after a nice strike by Joe, it's still, again, trying to struggle to find the pocket and knock pins down. Meanwhile, Steve Dorobiala has been steady with strikes and spares here as we make the turn here into frame number 7 for Joe, as you get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. And we want to remind you and thank our sponsor, Owl Homes of Fredonia. Build on your lot or theirs. Visit owlhomeswny.com. And a good spare pickup for Joe Doxbeck here in the 7th frame.
You know, I just myself bowled USBCs in Syracuse, and I found, and I went also and watched the Masters for a little bit, and those are just lane conditions that we, as house bowlers and people who primarily just concentrate on league, we just don't see those conditions. And for someone that sits here every month and talks about bowling and can pretty much see what's going on in the lane, I gotta be honest with you, it was very difficult to see what was going on in the lane. And you see conditions like that more often. Do you find that, and I have a theory, but I want to see what you say first. Do you find that bowling balls have less, equipment has less of an impact on a shot that's those patterns that are laid out in those sports shot type situations, and that it's more about physical ability, or that equipment still plays a big part in it?
To some extent, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but you do have to, I guess what Rick Benoit would say in Bowl U is that you don't have to have the right ball, you just can't have the wrong ball. So as long as you're close, then it's about your physical tools. And especially out there, I mean, I bowled the Masters last week, and it was absolutely brutal, unbelievably brutal. And if you didn't get it off your hand clean, you had no chance, absolutely none. So, you know, you didn't have to make sure you had the magic ball, but you still had to have something that was close, and then, you know, rely on your abilities from that point forward.
Because that was exactly what I was thinking. I mean, when I left the 2 events, I felt as though there was no magic bowling ball for that, and it really was. You didn't make a clean, good shot, that it showed on the lane, and that there was no ball that was going to bluff your way through that. And so it's in some ways it went back to your physical ability less than manipulating bowling balls, where I think in league, and I think even what we maybe saw out of you in the first match, where if the ball reads wrong, you have to strike. And if you don't, on house conditions, then if your ball's reading wrong, then the equipment does matter. So
yeah.
It did kind of answer my question. That it comes down to physical ability.
At the Nationals tournament, that has a lot to do too with the 9 people that go with you. And it's about how you choose as a team to transition the lanes to make them easier for yourself. There's a lot of people that go out there and they make it harder for themselves because they don't work together as a group. Not quite the same thing as you're going to see out here in this scenario, but it still matters who's on these lanes beforehand. If I was trying to completely hook the lane before, you know, Joe would have a much harder time trying to get it done out there right now. So, you know, that stuff even matters for singles as well.
Well, absolutely. So in the tournament, so you're talking about how the people on your pair play the lane, the equipment they use, and what portions of the lane they're using. So if you cross with a team that stays in generally the same spot, you're going to break it down in a predictable manner.
Yeah.
But what about your cross team?
I mean, for our group, our Bowl U group, it's a team of 10.
So you
That's
cross
how
with
we do
each
it.
other.
Yeah, we try to have the best 10 guys that can work together. It's not about the best 10 bowlers. It's about the 10 guys that can work together.
So now we're talking about offense and defense in bowling, which really doesn't
interesting.
exist. Because on these sport patterns, you know, if you can control your cross pair and everybody on that pair, because you don't move lanes, so you don't follow other people, where in the Masters, you're following other people, so how they choose to play a lane is important as well.
Yeah, if you're following Jason Belmonte, you better strap in. It's going to be a tough week.
So Steve had rattled off 3 strikes in a row, now looking at a spare here in the 10th frame. Joe Doxbeck had sort of found the groove a little bit with a couple strikes in 8 and 9, but Steve's been able to respond to that, and looks like he's in control here with a nice spare in the 10.
Well, Joe's figured out a little bit late. If he strikes out, he's got a potential score of 204, which Steve has already beat in the 9th frame. So this match has been decided.
So it's a 3rd win in a row for Steve Dorobiala, and he will look to make it a week 1 sweep here at the Jamestown Bowling Company. We will talk to Joe and get you ready for match number 3. When we return to Jamestown, you're watching Beat the Champ. .227 to 203, our final score as Steve Dorobiala moves on to our next match. Joe Doxbeck, you got a nice finish. It was the start that kind of doomed you, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't make the quick adjustment like I should have. The lanes were a little bit oilier down here than the practice lanes.
First time on the show, I know there's always a little bit of an adjustment, right?
Oh, yeah, a little bit of nerves here and there, you know. You got to knock them off quick.
It must be Jim that was making you nervous.
Always Jim.
Well, Joe, that was a great bowling. Got a little cash for you here, and come back and see us again.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, good solid debut for Joe Doxbeck. We hope we get him back on this show a lot more in the ensuing months, but we're getting set for match number 3. Steve Dorobiala looking for the sweep. We return to Jamestown right after this.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Rusty Martin, a new face to our show, new face on Beat the Champ, but not your first time on television. So tell us a little bit about your television experience bowling.
Back about 10 or 15 years ago, Jamestown used to do their own show here, Jamestown CV Bowling Challenge, and I was on there, I think, a total of 7 different times. First time I was on there, I was 3-time defending champion. Got beat in the championship match of the 3rd show that I was on. So not the first time, but first time scratch.
Oh, so that was a handicap event?
Yeah, that was handicap. Yep. It was, I can't remember what the percentage was, but back then I was only averaging like 156-ish, so I was getting like 40 pins. So.
Are you gonna be at all nervous today, or you feel good about being on TV again?
Maybe a little nerves, but I really think it's just about coming in with no expectations and just doing what I normally do and let the pins fall where they may.
And you're a hometown favorite, I'm guessing.
I don't know about favorite, but I'm hometown.
All right, well, good luck today. We look forward to watching you bowl.
Thanks, Sue.
Ready to go for match number 3, and we get our first Jamestown guy. It is Rusty Martin. He will be the one who will try to end this 3-match winning streak for Steve Dorobiala. Rusty from right here in Jamestown, bowls regularly here at the Jamestown Bowling Company, so a little home lane advantage. We'll see if Rusty can use that to his advantage.
Rusty sounds like he should be driving a car in a NASCAR race.
Yeah, it is kind of a NASCAR sort of name, isn't it? And here's the green flag for Rusty Martin. And a good start for the press operator at Arco Manufacturing. I think I've got that right. Arrow, thank you, Rusty. Rusty heard me and corrected me. Arrow Manufacturing. Got to keep the boss happy, right, Rusty? Right. Particularly if he's giving you the day off here today, so. Steve Dorobiala only has to keep himself happy. He is his own boss, as we mentioned, owner of Summit Seasonal Landscaping in West Seneca, so Steve doesn't mind continuing to win because it's working out the same either way.
Right.
And a late slide on the 7-pin gets Steve off to a good start.
Nice little kiss on that 7-pin right there.
Yeah, Steve's been impressive here. You know, we went back to the first match where it looked like he was going to lose, and then he just ended with the 3 strikes, put the pressure on Tom, and Tom had that bad 10th frame, and then took advantage, did Steve, of, you know, a little nerves for Joe Doxbeck early in match number 2, and here he is, 3-match winning streak, looking to sweep the week.
Right, well, that's the big deal about, you know, making sure you finish strong, and we talked a little bit about getting count on that, and it puts enough pressure on the other person to make them think. And here we are.
You know, and because we have this lineup here in Jamestown of mostly inexperienced and bowlers that have never been on the show before, even though Steve hadn't been on it a lot, been on it enough to know how it works and to deal with the lights and the cameras and us yakking and everything. And I think that just has Steve in a little bit of a peaceful place here with his bowling.
And if you watch him bowl, you know, there's not a lot of drama to Steve. Steve walks away from the shot and looks back at it as he's walking away.
Other than
so he's very calm.
Other than the interesting grip and sort of pre-roll form of his, Steve's just pretty nice and calm. And so far, Rusty Martin is not showing any nerves either.
No, and the story behind the bowling ball there is...
It's a great story that Rusty was telling us about. Shot his first career game on January 5th, right here at the Jamestown Bowling Company with a ball that he had bought that sat in the box for 9 months because he just didn't have any luck with it, couldn't figure it out, couldn't get the hang of it, and just kind of pulled it out on a whim. And what does he do? He takes that ball and rolls his first career 300 game.
Well, it's a very, he got that one way inside his target. It's a very aggressive bowling ball, and so a bowling ball that aggressive needs a lot of oil, and he wasn't finding that much oil in his league bowling condition. But especially like today when they're dressing the lanes to last the whole day because we've got a lot of shows to tape, you're going to find a higher concentration of oil, and that ball is going to definitely come into play.
And I love in the story that Rusty told us is he's bowling that with the ball and things are going well, and then he gets to the 10th frame and he thinks to himself, I don't think I've missed yet, which is pretty cool, right? I don't think I've missed yet. And meanwhile, everybody in the place knows he hasn't missed yet and knows that he's got the chance at a 300 game.
Yeah, it is. When you're talking and socializing and just to go and taking frame by frame, I mean, I've looked up and I'm like, and had the same feeling, like, oh wow, I've got the front 6 or 7 or 8.
So that's a good story from Rusty, and we're glad to have him making his Beat the Champ debut here at the place he hangs out a lot, the Jamestown Bowling Company. We always enjoy our trips down here. This is our 3rd trip. We haven't been here since January of 2017 as the schedule has changed a little bit. Little easier to get down here in April and May than it is in January, which is always nice as well too.
No, even though it's still a little cool outside. When I came out of the hotel this morning and saw the lake out there, it was really beautiful. It's a beautiful
you're gonna
area.
have to get down here when you can really see the lake.
Yeah, for sure.
When Chautauqua Lake doesn't have any snow and ice. It's beautiful down here. Beautiful spot down here, and think about it. We're an hour and a half or so from Western New York. Easy drive down the thruway, Route 60, to just a beautiful part of New York that probably a lot of people drive by and never think twice about.
Absolutely.
Great little spots, Jamestown, Bemis Point, some really neat spots right here around Chautauqua Lake. Well, how about Steve Dorobiala? Perfect through the first 4 frames. He really is in a nice groove here. And again, being a lefty, taking advantage of not having a lot of anybody else messing with his side of the lanes here. And you get a look at Janelle and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard that shows the early advantage. And both these guys bowling well. And a little bit of a miss there for Rusty. He's going to leave him a little split to deal with here in frame number 4.
Well, that's one of those annoying pocket splits, just a result of being just a little bit high flush, but definitely not a bad shot when you leave 7-9, or the, I'm sorry, that would be the 4-9 on the right side. So, the 6-8 for the left-hander.
So let's see what Rusty can do with this.
It's makeable, it's slidable for sure. Just gotta hit it. Nope, gotta hit on the outside of the pin.
Yep, only gonna get the 1, so that's an open in the 4th for Rusty Martin.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
It's gonna come down to somebody, Rusty can put a couple together and put some pressure on them, but we're going to need to see some strikes here. If they just spare out, then, Steve's got a good advantage.
So final 3 frames for both bowlers, and this will kind of decide things here.
So Rusty had mentioned that he made a TV show here. Very nice shot there. About 10 years ago, there used to be a local show. Jamestown Bowling Company had their own TV show, and he had made the show there. But it was kind of equivalent to the Tops TV Challenge that we had back in Buffalo, where it was a handicap tournament. So this, of course, is scratch, but he had won a couple times bowling in that tournament. So not
he's a TV veteran then.
Right, not his first time on television.
All right, this is big here for Rusty. He needs to get on a roll. Let's see what he does. 8th frame, there's a nice strike. winner of this match will come back as our champion for next week's shows here at the Jamestown Bowling Company.
Big strike here. This is a big frame. 9th frame is always that, talked about before, it's that helper frame. It's that frame that's taking you to the 10th frame where you can capitalize on a strike, but very big shot here for Rusty.
Boy, it looked good all the way, didn't it?
It did.
That's 2 in a row, 3 of the last 4. Big backside here for Rusty Martin.
I'm gonna say, from sitting in this chair, it never gets old watching people who do not bowl for a living go up and make shots when they need to make shots, and I just love that part of it.
Love the clutchness. All right, so now the pressure goes back on Steve Dorobiala, because now he's seeing what Rusty has been able to do here and is working a double, and Steve can get a strike here in the 9th and have his own double going into the 10th.
Good shot. Oh, another 7.
Once again, that's 10 pin.
So we're in a situation here where Rusty will have to strike out for 226. So it's going to be Steve's job to get as many pins as he possibly can. Now that he's in this situation, he's going to have to spare in the 10th. So he needs to get beyond. He needs a 227 or better, and that will shut Rusty out.
Well, this is a key one right here, and a good spare pickup for Steve. So now he moves to the 10th with this match in control, in his hands. See what he can do here on lane 17.
With that spare, Steve can strike out for 226. So because of that 10 pin he left on lane 18, he cannot shut Rusty out.
So we have the potential for a tie.
We have the potential for a tie if they both strike out.
All right, well, let's see what happens. Could be pretty exciting here before we're done. There's one strike for Dorobiala. Talk about putting the heat on Rusty, who's sitting there thinking and watching.
But, you know, it's a nice feeling that no matter what, he can still go up and keep this match going, you know. So it's you still kind of want that to be in your hands, and it is. So he can't get shut out. But definitely a big shot here for Steve.
Watch the somewhat deliberate setup here for Steve. Hooks that ball in his right hand, hooks it in his left hand now. Approach, throws, and strikes.
What a great shot. What a great shot.
So now Steve has, boy, you talk about being clutch and rising to the occasion. We've seen Steve do that in each of the last 4 matches. 3 of them are wins. The victory at Fredonia to advance, and the wins over Tom Sorce and Joe Doxbeck so far here today. So a strike here to close it out for Steve will mean Rusty will have to throw 3 strikes, and then we get a tie. And there it is. So Steve Dorobiala puts the 226 on the board. Will that be enough to win? That is up to this man. Rusty Martin needs 3 strikes for a tie.
What a position to be in.
Love it. This is great. What's fun about this sport? I think it's good that probably Rusty would tell you he knows exactly what he needs now. Doesn't make it easy, but he knows what he needs. And he missed, you could tell, it drifted too far right. And
he knew he pulled that one.
And not getting the strike there means that Steve Dorobiala is going to sweep the week. Another win for Steve Dorobiala, 4th in a row, and he's going to advance on to next week's show. We'll talk to both guys about another exciting match when Sue and I return to Jamestown. More of Beat the Champ right after this. It's a 226-192 win as Steve Dorobiala sweeps week number 1 here at the Jamestown Bowling Company. Rusty, what happened to you on the 1 in the 10th frame where you knew you needed that strike?
Well, I really wasn't feeling too much of the pressure. I knew what I had to do, and I get about 3 steps into my approach, and I get the ball down on the bottom of the swing, and my thumb starts to fall out, and I can't stop. So
Tough break.
Yeah, I let the ball go, and I just pulled it up the middle. I knew right away.
All right. Well, tough break. It's good to see new bowlers, particularly Jamestown bowlers, and it was good to get a chance to finally see you on the show.
Thanks.
All right, Jim, you get to see Jim all the time, but this time he's giving you some money.
It's not very often.
Rusty, good bowling. Here's a little something for your efforts, and I hope you come back and see us again.
All right, Sue, hottest guy in Jamestown.
Well, little Bird told us that it was your a big birthday for you yesterday. So first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, and you know you have a very calm, cool demeanor, and you can't tell one way or the other. You know whether you're bowling bad, bowling good, whether it's a big shot or not a big shot. What was your mindset going into that 10th frame?
Just to make 3 good shots, really. Every game's been tight, and fortunate to still be here. Right now, we'll just keep it going.
Well, I'm jealous of that calm, cool demeanor of yours.
Thanks.
All right, keep it going.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, Jim, give him a little money there. Sure. Steve Dorobiala.
He's not done yet, but sure, go ahead.
Good job, nice sweep.
Thanks.
Keep it going.
All right.
Steve stays hot, which means we're going to see him again on next week's show. Sue and I will come back and set you up for next week's stay here in Jamestown when we return to Beat the Champ. So, Sue, what jumped out at you about week number 1 here at Jamestown? I think what jumped out to me is Steve Dorobiala is a pretty clutch bowler.
Well, absolutely. That calm, cool demeanor of his is just so endearing. I mean, it's like I love watching him bowl and just not getting excited about anything, and it really came through at the end when he needed it.
Yeah, he doesn't show a whole lot of personality, just locks in and focuses, and he's bowling well, and there'll be 3 new bowlers that will try to challenge him next week. Nice and calm out there on the lanes. You're not used to that.
No, it's a different environment. Everyone's very relaxed, and it's really exciting because they're really honing in on their skills.
Yeah, well, so the bowling has been great here. We can't wait to see what comes up on next week's show. Make sure you're there to join us. It'll be Beat the Champs week number 2 in Jamestown. We'll see you next week.